Okay, so let's talk about this idea of how much parents are responsible when it comes to keeping schools safe.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this.
Hmm.
You get a call from your kid's school, right? And they say, "We think your child needs counseling."
Oh, wow.
And then they say, "And if you don't agree to it, you could face legal action."
Really?
Sounds extreme, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's actually the debate happening right now because of a pretty landmark court case over in Michigan.
It is. It all comes down to this case of Jennifer Crumbley.
Right.
She's the very first parent in the entire U.S. who's been convicted of manslaughter
Wow.
because of something her son did, a school shooting.
It's really making people wonder now, should schools have more power
Right?
to hold parents accountable when we're talking about potential violence? I mean, what does that even look like?
Yeah, that's the question.
So we're going to dive deep today into this case specifically,
Right.
and we'll look at the research about what makes parents make the choices they do, and ultimately what it all means for you as a parent or a teacher or a student or really just anyone who's part of a school community.
Absolutely. So it all began in Oxford High School
Okay.
back on November 30th, 2021.
That's when a 15-year-old,
15-year-old kid named Ethan Crumbley killed 4 students and then injured 7 more.
and he used a gun.
Yeah, he used a gun that his dad had legally bought for him
Oh, wow.
just days before.
And his parents knew about his struggles.
They did.
What?
Both Jennifer and James Crumbley knew that Ethan was struggling with his mental health.
Mm.
They had seen disturbing drawings that he had made.
And the school knew about this.
The school knew, and they actually met with the parents to talk about these drawings,
Wow.
to talk about their concerns.
So after all that, Ethan was still allowed to go back to class.
He was allowed to go back, and then the shooting happened.
Wow. So the jury ultimately found Jennifer Crumbley guilty of involuntary manslaughter,
Yes.
saying that her not taking care of the gun and not getting her son mental health help
Right.
was criminal negligence.
Yeah.
And now she's facing a possible sentence of up to 60 years.
It's a huge sentence.
It's unprecedented.
Yeah.
This is totally new legal territory.
Right.
You said involuntary manslaughter and negligence.
Yeah.
Can you kind of break down what those actually mean in this case specifically?
Sure. So involuntary manslaughter basically means that someone died because of something reckless or negligent that someone did, even if they weren't trying to kill anyone.
Mhm.
In this case, the prosecution was able to convince the jury that Jennifer Crumbley was negligent because she didn't lock up the gun
Right.
and she didn't get Ethan help with his mental health.
So they're saying that led directly to...
Yeah, they said that led directly to the deaths at Oxford High School.
So this verdict has really kind of thrown a wrench in how we used to see where the school's responsibility ends and the parents begins.
Absolutely.
Where do you even draw that line?
Yeah.
From your experience working in schools, what are some of the challenges that schools face when they're trying to get parents involved
Oh, it's tough.
in these really sensitive situations?
It's really hard because schools are walking this fine line.
Yeah.
We can recommend things like, maybe your child should get extra help, or maybe they need to be evaluated. But at the end of the day, we can't force the parents to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating for educators
Yeah.
because we see the warning signs,
Right.
but we don't have the power to make sure that these kids actually get the help they need.
So then what can schools do if they can only recommend?
Right.
What can they actually do to make parents actually act on those recommendations?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any way to bridge that gap?
That's a great question, and it's where things get really interesting. There's a whole bunch of research out there that's all about figuring out what makes parents actually do what's recommended for their child.
Wow.
It's not just about giving them the facts. It's about talking to them in a way that makes sense to them
Yeah.
and helps them feel like they can actually do something.
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Are there any tried and true strategies for getting parents on board?
There are. Back in the 70s, there was this school psychologist named Dr. Tony Conti.
Okay.
He was like a pioneer in this field. And his research actually led to this science to practice blueprint
Wow.
for making recommendations that actually work. One of the really important things he found was that parents are way more likely to do something if you focus on the child's strengths and potential. And not just on what's wrong with them. It's
Right.
about framing the conversation around helping the child succeed in life, not just fixing their problems.
So meeting parents where they are.
Exactly.
And helping them see the bigger picture.
Yes.
Do you think that using this approach could have made a difference in the Crumbley case?
It's hard to know for sure, but
Yeah.
it definitely makes you wonder, did the school focus on Ethan's potential Or did they just present him as a problem? Did they give the Crumbleys specific things they could do, or was it just a vague and overwhelming conversation?
It's kind of scary to think that maybe the way the school talked to the Crumbleys could have changed what happened.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff.
So this really shows how important the role of the school is in these situations.
Oh, for sure.
They need to be more than just giving information.
Right.
They need to be good communicators, they need to really listen, and they need to be active partners with the parents.
Exactly.
So let's break down those factors that influence how parents make decisions.
Okay.
We'll use the Crumbley case to see what might have stopped Jennifer and James from doing something.
Okay. One of the first things to consider is this thing called perceived need.
Okay.
Did the Crumbleys even understand how serious Ethan's mental state was? Did they see those drawings and that behavior as like a desperate cry for help?
Right.
Or did they just think it was normal teenage angst?
And we also have to think about how much stigma there is around mental health.
Absolutely.
Were they afraid of people judging them if they got help for Ethan?
It's a real fear.
And did they even know what resources were out there?
Good question.
Or were they just completely lost and overwhelmed?
Yeah, it can feel like that.
And then there's their cultural background and how they usually deal with things.
Yeah.
What do they believe about getting help outside the family? Did their culture value being self-reliant or talking to professionals?
Interesting point.
And what about how bad Ethan's symptoms actually were? Did they downplay those drawings and not connect them to potential violence?
Yeah, it's possible.
And did they even trust the school's assessment of Ethan?
Right.
Or did they think the school was overreacting or interfering?
I mean, trust is huge in these situations.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, we got to consider if anything was stopping them practically or financially from doing anything.
Right.
Do they have access to mental health care they could afford?
Yeah.
Were transportation or work schedules getting in the way?
Those are all real barriers.
We have to think about everything before we judge.
I agree.
And this is where the school's role becomes super important, don't you think?
Absolutely.
They're the ones who are usually with the student the most.
Right.
So they're in the best position to see what's going on and connect the parents with resources.
You're totally right. It's not enough to just point out the problem. Schools have to be proactive in helping parents figure out the mental health system.
Because it's confusing.
It is. It's so complex and overwhelming.
Yeah, so what does that proactive approach look like in real life?
Well, it all starts with building strong relationships with the parents.
Okay.
Relationships built on trust and respect. You have to approach these conversations with empathy and understanding because this might be a really hard and emotional thing for them.
So it's not just sharing information.
No.
It's about making a safe space for parents
Yes,
to ask questions and share their worries and feel like they're being heard.
exactly.
And it's about doing more than just handing them a list of places to call.
Right.
Schools need to be active partners,
Yeah.
helping parents understand the system, dealing with any roadblocks, and even connecting them directly with people who can help.
Yeah, like helping with transportation, finding ways to pay for things, or even just making those first phone calls to mental health professionals.
Exactly.
It might take more time and effort, but that's the kind of thing that could stop another tragedy like Oxford High School.
Wow. That's a powerful thought. So we've talked about parents in schools, but what about the people who work in schools?
Yeah.
What can schools do to make sure their staff know how to deal with these really sensitive and potentially dangerous situations?
That's a big one. It's not enough to just know about mental health resources and warning signs.
Right.
School staff need to be trained in how to communicate effectively, how to really listen to people, and how to calm things down if they get heated. They need to be able to have tough conversations with parents in a way that's both caring and assertive.
And it sounds like they need to be willing to go above and beyond
For sure.
to be real advocates for families who are struggling to get support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that we're all on the same team here. We all want the same thing. We want every student to have a chance to thrive.
Right.
And sometimes that means doing more than what's in our job description and really becoming partners with the parents.
This conversation has really shown how complicated it is when you have schools, parents, and the legal system all trying to figure out how to handle student mental health and safety.
It's complicated.
The Crumbley case is a huge wake-up call.
Definitely.
It's telling us that the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
And we can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. We have to be proactive, work together, and be relentless in making sure all students are safe in school.
I completely agree.
Well said. But the Crumbley case also brings up some bigger ethical and legal questions.
It does.
Like, how far does a parent's responsibility actually go?
Yeah.
And when do they become legally responsible for their kids' actions?
Yeah.
Where do you even draw that line?
It's tricky.
It is.
And that's where things get even more complicated. It really has, this Crumbley case. It's shining a light on this whole question of where do we draw the line between, a parent's responsibility and when they should actually be held accountable by the law.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you can say, look, parents have this basic duty to protect their kids.
Right.
And to make sure that they're okay. And if they don't do that, especially when there are clear warning signs that something bad could happen, shouldn't they face consequences?
I mean, that's what the prosecution argued in Jennifer Crumbley's case.
Right.
And the jury agreed with them.
Yeah.
But there are definitely people who think this is a dangerous precedent to set.
Oh, absolutely. The worry is that this could lead to all sorts of problems. Could parents be held responsible for any crime their kid commits no matter what?
Right. Like, how far does it go?
Yeah, where's the line?
And what about those parents who are really trying their best, but the system is working against them?
Exactly.
Look, what if they can't afford mental health care?
Right.
Or they live somewhere where there just aren't enough resources.
Yeah.
Should they be blamed for that?
It's a really tough question.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers.
Yeah.
This verdict is probably going to cause a whole wave of new laws and court cases
I'll bet.
as schools and lawmakers try to figure out this whole parental accountability thing.
It feels like we're about to see a huge change in the relationship between schools, parents, and the legal system.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for kids' mental health?
Right.
Will this verdict make parents more likely to get help for their kids? Or will it make them scared and distrustful of schools?
It's a tough one. It could go either way.
Yeah.
We want parents to be involved and proactive when it comes to their kids' mental health,
Of course.
but we don't want to punish them for getting help
Right.
or make them feel like they're always being watched.
Like Big Brother.
Exactly.
So how do we find that balance? How do we encourage parents to be involved without making them afraid and blaming them?
I think it starts with open and honest communication
Okay.
between schools, parents, and mental health professionals.
Yeah.
We need a system where families feel supported and not scrutinized.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But even when everyone's trying to do the right thing, these conversations can be really hard,
They can.
especially when a kid's well-being is at stake,
For sure.
or even the safety of other people.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to people who work in schools who are having these tough conversations with parents?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'd say the most important thing is empathy. Put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you're a parent and someone's telling you that your child might need outside help or that their behavior is worrisome.
It would be scary.
It would. It can be really overwhelming and even frightening.
So it's natural for parents to get defensive
Oh, yeah.
or even deny that there's a problem.
Absolutely. So instead of coming at them with accusations or judgment,
Right.
try to start with understanding and support. Let them know you get how they feel and that it's okay to have a lot of emotions about this.
So building that connection first.
Yes.
Showing them that you respect them as parents.
Exactly. And you're all on the same team.
Yeah, working together to help the child.
Right. Instead of telling parents what to do, try to work with them. Ask open-ended questions.
Okay.
To really understand their point of view, their worries, and what they want for their child.
So how do you go from just telling them what to do to actually working together?
Well, one good strategy is to start by acknowledging their perspective.
Okay.
You could say something like, I know this might be hard to hear, and I really appreciate you meeting with me.
So showing them that you value their feelings.
Yeah.
And that you respect them as parents.
Exactly. And then you can gently share the information you have.
Okay.
Focus on specific things you've seen the child do and what worries you.
So instead of saying your child has ADHD, you could say, we've noticed that your child is having trouble focusing in class and finishing their work.
Perfect example. That way you're talking about what the child is doing instead of labeling them.
Right.
And remember to use clear language that's not judgmental.
Yeah.
Language that parents can easily understand.
It sounds like the key is to give them information in a way that helps them feel like they can actually do something.
Yes. Not overwhelmed or blamed.
Exactly. And once you've shared the information, be ready to offer real solutions and support.
That's where your knowledge of all those resources comes in.
Right, all those places they can go for help.
Exactly. You can say something like, here are some organizations in our community that are really good at helping kids with these kinds of challenges.
Hmm.
We can connect you directly with them and even help with any logistical stuff.
So you're not just handing them a list.
No.
You're actually helping them get access to those resources.
Right. Help them figure out the system, address any practical concerns they have, and make it as easy as possible for them to take the next step.
And that often means doing more than what's usually expected of someone who works at a school.
It does.
Like helping families find transportation,
Yeah.
figuring out how to pay for things, or even making those first calls to mental health providers.
Exactly. It might take more time and effort, but that kind of proactive approach could be what prevents things from getting worse
Yeah.
and makes sure a child gets the help they need.
It's about shifting from reacting to problems to preventing them.
Yes.
Being really invested in the whole child, not just their grades.
I love that. And remember, this usually doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get discouraged if parents aren't immediately on board with your recommendations.
Okay.
Building trust takes time.
So checking in with them regularly and
Yeah.
keeping the lines of communication open is really important.
Absolutely. Check in with the family, offer support, and be a steady presence in their lives. This shows them that you're committed to their child's well-being and that you're all working together.
It's a team effort.
It is. But this brings us back to the Crumbley case. Even with the best training and support in the world, there's always a chance that a parent just won't listen, even when their child is doing things that are really alarming. That's a tough reality we have to face. Even with the best intentions and the best communication skills, we can't force parents to do anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even when we try our hardest, tragic things, like what happened at Oxford High School, still happen.
That's a hard truth to swallow.
It is. But it shows us how important it is to be vigilant and to have systems in place that put the safety and well-being of all students first.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it highlights the need to talk openly and honestly about how much parents are responsible for and when the community needs to step in to help families.
Yes. We need to move past blaming and judging and work together to create a safety net that catches every child who is struggling.
It's a big goal.
It is.
But it's worth fighting for. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final question to think about. Yeah. It really makes you think. What role should schools have when it comes to dealing with student mental health and potential violence?
Right.
And where does the parent's responsibility come in?
Yeah, where does one end and the other begin?
Exactly.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to be honest, there isn't a simple answer.
Yeah.
We're in uncharted waters here. This Crumbley case. It's going to have consequences across the country, I think. Probably going to see new laws and policies about how much parents are accountable.
And like you said before, it's all about finding that balance.
Right.
We want parents to be involved and care about their kids' mental health.
Of course.
But we don't want to make parents afraid to ask for help or even talk to the school.
Exactly. The point isn't to punish parents or turn schools into some kind of surveillance state.
Right.
The goal is to create a system where everyone's working together. Schools, parents, mental health professionals, the community, everyone's supporting kids and stopping these tragedies from happening again.
So many pieces to this puzzle.
There are.
It needs a solution with just as many pieces. What can we actually do to get closer to that vision of everyone working together and supporting each other?
Well, when it comes to schools, we got to keep putting money into mental health resources and training for staff.
Right.
Teachers and staff need the skills to spot the warning signs,
Yeah.
to have those hard conversations, and to connect families with the right help.
And it's not just about giving them a list of phone numbers.
No, it's about being proactive,
Yeah.
helping families navigate the system,
Right.
dealing with those logistical hurdles, and even advocating for them.
So schools need to be true partners with parents.
Absolutely, working together to support these kids. And that might mean getting creative with funding, thinking outside the box, and building stronger relationships with community organizations.
But schools can't do it all alone.
They can't. Parents have a huge role to play, too.
Right? Parents know their kids best.
They do. They know their history. Their triggers what they need.
And parents need to be honest with the school about their child's challenges.
Yes.
Ask for help when they need it, and be part of creating a plan to support their child.
Exactly. And we have to remember, asking for help is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means you're strong enough to admit you need support.
Right. There's still so much shame around mental health.
Yeah,
We need to get rid of that so families feel comfortable reaching out.
we do. And it's not just on parents and schools. Communities have to step up too.
Okay.
They need to provide mental health resources that all families can afford and access.
Does that means?
More money for community mental health centers,
Right.
support groups, parenting workshops, things like that.
It really does take a village.
It does. And that includes taking care of kids' mental health.
Yeah. This case, as awful as it is, can actually be a chance for us to do better.
I agree. It's a chance to rethink our systems, strengthen our support networks, and create a world where every kid feels safe, supported, and able to succeed.
That's a world I want to live in.
Me too.
Hmm?
And like we've been talking about, knowledge is power. The more we understand these complicated issues, the better we can fight for our kids and make real change happen.
Thank you so much for talking with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been eye-opening.
Yeah.
And I hope it gets our listeners thinking about these questions and talking about them in their own communities.
I hope so too. And remember, even small things can make a difference.
Right.
Whether it's volunteering at a mental health organization, pushing for more funding for schools, or just having honest conversations with your kids about mental health.
Absolutely.
Every step we take gets us closer to a safer and more supportive world for all.
We can't just sit back and do nothing.
No.
Our kids are counting on us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time for another in-depth look at a topic that matters.